Monday Night Raw, not long gone off the air over in America, and we've gotten ever closer to WrestleMania, the two-night extravaganza next weekend over the Easter bank holiday weekend. So thank you, WWE, for that. For certain, we don't have to do any early starts in the morning for those lucky enough to be off over Easter anyway. But lots of stuff happened on Raw. There's a lot to get into. So let's just start straight away. Rhea Ripley, Io Sky, Bianca Belair in-ring segment. Adam Pearce confirms that this is now going to be a triple threat match. Now, interestingly, in this, some of the points that I put out here was that Bianca Belair seemed to be dressed in black, which, generally in wrestling terms, that's a heel look, shall we say. Did get some boos from the crowd, did get some ESTs as well. Um, and the promo itself was very, yes, there had some heel elements to it. That is without question. The funny thing is that everything kind of Bianca Belair said was right. Rhea sort of brought herself into this match and now she's got it and she's not afraid and whatnot. It was just quite funny though, because, again, I think it was Kevin Owens when he turned. It was like, yeah, but what you've just said is right. So it's a bit weird. And by the way, on the thing of Kevin Owens, best wishes to Kevin Owens. Now, this past week on SmackDown, Kevin Owens had come out and said he would not be competing at WrestleMania. He's got a serious neck injury, and he needs to go and get that fixed. There is no timetable for his return. There was lots of fake news spread that he was going to be out for up to 5 years, which would practically mean the end of his career. Those were fake news reported. It wasn't reported by Pro Wrestling Insider. So that they actually reported that there was no time frame for his return. So don't believe absolutely everything that you hear, but do not discourage or discredit Pro Wrestling Insider. They did not put that out there. So best wishes to Kevin Owens. Hope it all goes very well. The promo itself was good. It was a good opening segment. What I liked about it, and what I liked a lot about this, they just got straight to the point. There wasn't any messing around of it. Freegum signed the contract. Bianca and Rhea did do that thing when they pushed Io away again. Io comes off the top rope, drop kicks Rhea into Bianca, signs the contract, and we're at the races. The triple threat match that we thought was going to happen is now happening at WrestleMania. It was a good start, shall we say, to Monday Night Raw. Now, Judgment Day, Judgment Day, Judgment Day. If you remember last week, just on the part of Judgment Day, Adam Pearce said Rhea Ripley was representing Judgment Day this week. Adam, you've had a long trip. We will let you off, my man. You've got the same name as me. Oh, Adam, at least Adam anyway. So we'll let you off on that. Yes, so Judgment Day. They were basically in the clubhouse and celebrating the fact that not one but two members of the Judgment Day have a crack at the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania. Adam Pearce has booked the match. It's Braun Breaker, it's Penta, it's Finn, and it's Dirty Dominic Mysterio for the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania. Finn was kind of happy that Dominic was included. It was Liv Morgan that went and persuaded Adam Pearce to do that. Wonder what she done to get that to do that, or how long it took for her to do that. But nevertheless, Fatal Four Way and Dominic Mysterio in action later on Raw. So we'll go and see what that happens on there. But Judgment Day teasing being all right, but there seems to be a little bit of tension in the Judgment Day ranks. Women's Intercontinental title match was the first match on Raw this coming week. It was Bayley, it was Lyra Valkyria. Coincidentally, both of these two are teaming up on Friday in the tag team gauntlet to crown a new number one contendership for Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez at WrestleMania. Be interesting to see. They're one of the teams in there. Can't remember them all, but I also remember Maxine Dupree and Natalia being one of the teams who I think are going to go on and win that tournament, to be fair. I think they're going to go into WrestleMania. But this match itself was solid. What I will say about Valkyria now is because we're seeing, and I say this a lot on the TNA stuff, The more that we see someone, the character, the person, the in ring, the more we get to know them as a fan. The more we can either like them or don't like them. It's entirely your choice as a fan. But the more I'm seeing of Valkyria in the ring, she now's impressive. The only thing I think is lacking from Valkyria at the moment now is just a bit of personality, or perhaps to give us a reason to care more about her. I think that like she's got the entrance when they go ooh or whatever they say at the start, and that's probably the worst, you know, thing I've ever done in my life. But she gives us that. But I think beyond that and the championship, like if she was to lose the championship, um, I don't think there's enough for me for the fan. There's enough fans to get behind her to say that she wouldn't just disappear into obscurity or just be petering around the division. That's my only concern about it, and yeah, I'm just not fully convinced about that side of it. The in-ring stuff impressive. Again, she's got the entrance that the fans like to do, but beyond that, I don't think there's enough for me to care about her. And that sounds horrible when I say that, but I just don't think there's enough for me to, really get behind her, believe her, or have a story that you understand a bit so we can find out a bit more about her. I feel that it's very secluded with Valkyria at the minute. And like I said, for me, it's the type of person that if she was to drop the Intercontinental title, I don't know where she'd go. I think that she would just go into obscurity. That's just my opinion. Look, I'm happy to be proved wrong, but that's my thing. Um, the LWO was next, versus El Grand Americano and the Creed brothers. Obviously, the LWO with Ivy Nile. This was a fun six-man tag match. Um, there was a great shooting star press from Julius Creed in this as well. Del Toro and Wild fly around that ring. I say reckless, but they're not reckless. He just looks reckless. It's incredible what they do. I There was a bit during this. There was like a metal plate that Niall handed El Gran Americano that he put in his head or put in his mask. Chad Gable Americano that he puts in there, and I just think that like there was some funny bit. Like there was the funny bit where he's trying to put it around his mask, and he does use it. He headbutts Mysterio. He then does a diving headbutt onto Dragon Lee, gets the win. I don't think it was a surprise um, that he won. I just think the grand. I was expecting El Grand Americano to win, but I wasn't quite sure as to when. It's not as to when, but I just wasn't quite sure that the LWO needs to keep eating defeats all the time because that's all they seem to be doing at the moment is losing matches, and they really should be winning some. We can't say this. We kind of say this quite a bit. Like they seem to be. It's a bit like Wheeler Yuta and AEW. They're always kind of. It's always the fall guy, right? He's always kind of the fall guy when the Death Riders lose. And I just feel that the LWO are um, getting into that mantra. They've always kind of been. They're exciting. They get the crowd, get the crowd on their feet. They're very exciting, but they don't do it. They don't do enough for me. Anyway, that was that. We now move to the ring general, Gunther. He basically couldn't get to the ring quick enough. Well, he couldn't get to the ring, couldn't talk before Jey Uso, um, you know, got to the ring. Jey Uso's pissed. He comes through the crowd. Um, and as Gunther tries to speak, Jey Uso knocked the microphone out of his hand. I think that like the base of this promo was a bit lost. It was a bit like it started right. I don't know if it was deliberate or not, but it felt like Uso got lost at the start of it at the promo, but he finished strong and he was like, that he isn't afraid of Gunther anymore. Jake, every time Gunther tries to speak, he cuts him off, cuts him off, cuts him off. Um, you know, and like he even said, Jay said the night before WrestleMania, he's going to pray for forgiveness because of the man he's about to become. and at WrestleMania, Jay is going to get Gunther, which is that was a strong bit, you know. I felt as if that was really strong, really powerful bit from Jey Uso. As I said, the start of it, he was asking Gunther how his mum was. It seemed to have got a bit lost, but he finished really strong. And actually, at the end of it, he kept cutting Gunther off, Gunther off, Gunther off. Um, and at the end of it, when he said about, he's gonna, I've got to, pray because of the person I'm going to become. Gunther actually seemed worried for the first time. Gunther's always walked around cockily like he's going to beat Jey Uso. There's no question he was going to beat Jey Uso. Now Gunther is like, oh, it was kind of like, uh-oh, there was a little bit of doubt in his head. So it was a good ending, lost at the start, but a great ending. And now Jay's credibility as someone that could perhaps beat Gunther is starting to creep up, maybe at just the right time, which is important. Anyway, let's move on. We've got a week to go, one more week to see what they do with Jey Uso. Now, the breaking news after that was that Rey Mysterio will go one-on-one with El Gran Americano at WrestleMania, aka Chad Gable. I'm not going to talk about it because I get pissed off. You know how I feel about it, so let's leave it at that. The World Tag Team Champions was next. Well, it was meant to be next. It was meant to be the War Raiders against the New Day. Um, it didn't get long before Xavier Woods brought a chair into the ring. But Eric took the chair, hit Woods, and the referee basically called it off and disqualified the War Raiders. But at the end of it, Woods and Kingston beat down Eric and Ivar. They targeted Eric's neck because obviously he had an injured neck. He stopped Kingston from landing a double stomp on Eric's neck while it was wrapped in a chair, which was, an interesting bit there. It was an unexpected ending, but I think it helps solidify the heel turn from the New Day. Because it's kind of been like they were heels, but they kind of never really done much after that. And finally, we're kind of seeing a bit more of them. And yeah, I just feel like it's about time the New Day are finally getting a little bit, they've been getting the heat, but they really seem to have not done anything with it right away and seem to be doing it right now. So I'm happy with it. I'm happy with it. It's good. Anyway, Penta and Dom Mysterio was next. Penta did end up getting the win in this. Dominic basically got walked into a Penta driver. This was kind of Penta's probably had his worst match. It wasn't like I don't think it was off or terrible by any stretch. I just thought they were both off. It didn't felt like they connected well with this one. And perhaps it was more about they were kind of knowing that what was going to happen afterwards. And what happened afterwards was that Dominic and Carlito was beating down Penta. Braun Breaker comes to the stage. He literally spears Carlito into 2,300, to the year 2300. He spears Dominic. But Finn does attack Braun Breaker and pose you with the title at the end of that particular match. That was the entertaining bit. The rest, I felt the match itself, I just thought it was off. It didn't click. I don't know if it's them two, where it was just an off night or whatever. It just didn't click for me. Hey ho, that's my opinion though, right? And I'm the only one that matters at this point. Ladies and gentlemen, his name is Paul Heyman, and he was in the ring. He said that, he come up and said he will always be loyal to his tribal chief. He'll always be loyal to his best friend, CM Punk. Before he could say anything else, Seth Rollins interrupts and asked Heyman whose side is he on, as Heyman actually laughs at this point. Rollins was like, Roman Reigns doesn't care about Heyman. And also notes that Punk was nowhere to be found when Heyman was being tortured by the bloodline. And then he said that Heyman needs to be removed from proceedings and he's happy for the one to be doing it. Anyway, as Rollins was forcing Heyman into the corner, Punk runs town. They have a big brawl. But Rollins hits the stomp on Punk. And as Heyman checks on Punk, Rollins was going to look like he was going to stomp Heyman. But he then said that Heyman owes him a favor now. Now, is that? I mean, that they just keep adding layers to this. I thought that was absolutely tremendous. I really enjoyed the fact that they were adding more layers to the piece or more layers to this because it feels like they're doing a lot more with it. You know, I really just thought like, is that a prologue to what's going to happen at WrestleMania? Are we going to get a heel turn from or say heel turn? Is Paul Heyman going to side with Seth Rollins? See, that was what some people have been saying, that Paul Heyman was indeed going to side with Rollins. So I was wondering whether that was where they're going with it. Was Paul Heyman? Is that just a bit there to put it into your head that hey, this could happen? Was it Seth just playing games? That's the other thing. It could be. It could be. It just gives you that little bit of it just gives you that little bit. Do you know what I mean? That little bit of intrigue, shall we say, going into the match at WrestleMania. It adds another, as I said, it adds another layer and makes it more interesting. I think that at the end of WrestleMania Night One, Seth Rollins wins and he does walk out in with Paul Heyman. That's how I think. But what I will say was Monday Night Raw was good. Lots of bits and pieces have been finalized for WrestleMania, which is great. Very much looking forward to what is next. The last week of WrestleMania, last week of Raw before WrestleMania, next Monday. Very much looking forward to that, and we'll get it reviewed on Tuesday of next week. It will be great to see in WrestleMania this next weekend, folks. Next weekend on Netflix, the first WrestleMania on Netflix. It is shaping up to be a great one. Go and check out our interviews with Leon Slater that's just dropped, TNA exclusive interview with Leon Slater. Go and check that out on our playlists, which is below. Follow us, of course, at HTT Buckle One X, HTT Buckle One YouTube, Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast, and all other social media outlets. We'll be back tomorrow. No, we'll be back with maybe tomorrow. No, Thursday with the NWA Power Review show. But until then, everybody, we are going to be recording Independent Showcase with Prodigy Pro Wrestling tonight. A couple of interviews. NWA Showcase is going to be recorded as well this week, so keep a lookout for that when it drops. But until later on this week, guys, buckle down. Stay safe. Goodbye.